Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday morning trading room. One second here. Open up the screen share. All right. Yesterday, not a good day for me. In fact, it was one of the worst days in a long time because I ended up breaking just about every rule that I tell you guys you should observe. And I don't know, I feel like I should apologize for that. This is supposed to be a training and trading room, but I don't know. Some days it just goes to show you, how important your discipline is in your trading. Let's see if we can't do a little bit better today, perhaps. I hope. All right, so the market actually, for a change, no gap this morning. Yesterday and the overnight session looking really choppy, kind of range bound actually. But you can see the overnight really quiet. We left off at around 75.30, and that's where we're beginning the day, 75.30. This was the overnight right here, non-existent for the most part. You did get a decent signal here on the Eagle, and you would have had comparable signals on the Hawk and the Falcon. But a bit of a snooze fest overall. We're starting the day here again with another strong rally. Out of the open. Here's your first in-sync Raptor signal, that number one, and that certainly got up high enough to find its profit objective. Oh, here we go now with the pullback back to the hard edge. While we're waiting on this, let's get a broader perspective here now, the daily. I don't know, a little bit of a funny kind of day here. Yesterday. It was bullish, but not terribly bullish. Prices ending up settling down a little bit from the highs. Not like this bar here. These are overtly bullish bars. As this is making me think that the market could be teeing up for a more bearish kind of move, but we'll see. We'll see. We're at a very a crossroads for the market. Very important intersection. Whoever ends up taking control from here, I think, will determine the short-term bias of the market. We're either going to see a larger pullback or the rally will continue. All right, back into the hard edge now on the Eagle and the Raptor. When we hit the hard edge, we should anticipate some sort of reaction. The Hawk here already full on sell mode. The Falcon also a lot more bearish. Kind of at a, the market's still non-committal here. Oh, maybe we're going to see a little bit. All right, now we are much more bearish. Look at that nice follow through there on both the Hawk and the Falcon signals. Oh, Mark said he took advantage of a pre-market move. Oh yes, I see right here. The trend change on the pre-market. Mark says I got a whole lot more out of that than I expected. Nice move up. Well done. All right, so what began as overly bullish has now changed to a much more bearish market. We've got the number one signal here. The problem I'm going to have with this signal, though, is where in the world am I going to cover it? Ideally, I should cover it up here. That's not going to be possible. As it turns out, I probably could have got by covering it here to the hard edge. Okay, our hard edge reaction was short-lived here on the Eagle. Quick little turnover. Didn't really get a chance at that one. And I think this is the first day in a long time that the first in-sync Eagle signal not working out. I think it's this signal right here, that buy signal. Okay, well, here we are back in the hard edge. We're producing a hard edge sell. We do have a second push on this one as well. Doggone it, the problem's the same though. I really need to cover that trade, or I feel like I need to cover that trade a little bit deeper. All right, now we've got a bigger second push, so I could get by. Look at that, even that's out of reach. Let's try it. Let's try it below here, and I'll set my stops right here. This is what I was afraid of with the number 3 signal off of the hard edge. Because there's so much space up here, it's going to make it really difficult to cover this position in the event of a pullback. And I hate getting stopped out early on a trade. We do have a 2-3-2 style signal, but right now it does seem as though the trend is down. Although it looks like the buyers really testing these zones. We could, I'll mention it, we could do an OCO order. Yesterday I got burned a couple of times on those OCO orders. Makes me a little bit gun shy today. But a pop up, I would not be too surprised. Here, the hawk already with the first micro macro cross. We are in the hard edge. So I would expect the sellers to show up here somewhere. Oh, nice. Mark took the trend change short and he's hit his goal on the day. Well done. Nice when that happens. 10 minutes in and you've already met your target for the day. Good job. See all these yellow bars that are cropping up here in the hawk? All these clusters, more or less the same price level. That sometimes precedes a price change as well. You can see we're struggling. We got the candy striping going on. Look at all those signals going back and forth. When you see things like this happening, or the risk demands are too great, meaning you have to place your stops too far away, a second push strategy really is a good way to go. A good entry is important, to be sure, but the right entry is more important. You need to make sure you're on the right side of the market. I did consider tightening my entry and going above this little number 3 or below this number 3 signal. Speaking of an earlier entry. All right, so we broke below the lows here now, the little bit of a retest. So this, if we get a hard edge bounce from here, that will actually be the better signal, because here we have our trading range, the market breaking out of the range, coming back to retest it if it heads lower from there, that actually makes for a much more predictable signal. My concern is that we could see a major pullback here before the next selling opportunity. And given my stops where they are, I don't have a whole lot of staying power. I'm not liking these green warning dots either. Come on, sellers, where'd you go? All right, well, I'll leave my stops where they are for now. But things definitely turning bullish on us. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's Yom Kippur today. Stephen writes, considering it's a Jewish holiday today, where did all this volume come from? I will be in temple soon, but maybe I can earn a few shekels before temple. Yes, here's hoping. Hey, way to go, Mark. You know, I love testimonials like this, and I know Mark's not saying these kinds of things to boast, but rather hopefully to encourage and just kind of highlighting how important it is to stick to your trading goals. Mark writes, sticking to my goals and only taking two specific trades. I'm running at 90% of my trades working during the last 70 trading days. So that's over 3 months, 3.5 months. We're struggling here a little bit, and hoping that the overall trend will prevail. I'm debating bringing my stops in above this swing here. Certainly, if we can trade below 74.99, it should be. I should be able to bring my stops in above that swing. Steven's asking about Mark's setups. Well, I do believe that Mark focuses on the Falcon, and he looks at doing the trend change signal in the Falcon and the late filter entry signal. This one here, practically textbook. So the late filter entry signal in the Falcon, especially when your trend line goes nice and flat like this, very encouraging. So your filter goes out of sync, comes back into sync. Your trend line, however, never changes color, and then you produce a signal. This late filter entry also piggybacking on a trend change signal. Your trend change signal occurs when your trend line changes color. You have this push that changes the color. Then you have the counter move, and then you have your with trend move, initiating the new signal. Mark is now in a position where I know he has runners in play, but correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, I think starting out you always took profit on target. Now, I think you need to also focus on context, right? You got to look at your market situation. If you're looking at a chart like this, it's going to be less desirable to take a trade. And, you know, using Mark's philosophy of only 2 trades a day, and I know occasionally he'll sneak in the third one if things seem just right, but by taking just 2 trades a day, and you're looking at a chart like this, does this look like a good opportunity? Maybe not. So you may hold out for when things are set up a little bit better. And how do you get to that point? Well, by studying a lot. I hate to burst your bubble. We do our best to make trading as simple as possible via tools like the Raptor with the signal prompts. But the fact of the matter is, you still have to look at these signals and figure out what a good looking opportunity looks like. And the easiest way to do that is just to go back through your chart. I call it the right edge game, but just grab your cursor and pull it over and then advance your chart bar by bar. And when you get a signal, think about it. Think, okay, if this were a real trade, is this a signal I would take? Now, you're not going to be able to use a tool like your Geiger counter, but even just looking at your chart, you can look at this and you can say, oh, all right, so what do we got going on here? It looks like there's a trend. It's not a high probability signal. How would I trade this? Would I wait for a second push? Would I wait for a high probability signal? And then go ahead and set it up how you would trade it. And then play it forward and see how it would work out. And if you do that, if you do your homework, and it's not hard, it's essentially like playing a game, but your eye will train itself to recognize the better opportunities and hopefully avoid the worst opportunities. The other thing you can do, which I highly recommend, is keeping a trading journal. Just a handwritten trading journal. You can subscribe to trading journals as well, but even if you do that, you should still keep a handwritten trading journal. And just make a note of your trade, your entry, your exit, your profit targets, how the trade worked out. But most importantly, make a note of why you took the trade. Ideally, you should have 2 reasons for taking a trade. If there are 2 things that you see in a chart that suggest to you, hey, this might be worth trying. So let's go back here to the trade that I was looking at. What would my 2 reasons be? Well, strong downtrend. Right? The market has made a strong downtrend. That's definitely reason number 1. Reason number 2, it's a hard edge bounce. Now, in hindsight, I should have been more aggressive on the entry. But that is something that you can make a note of in your journal. You can write, if I had been more aggressive on the entry, I would have made a profit instead of getting tagged out of break even. Most importantly, you will also discover why your trades are not working out. If you can't, a lot of times it'll be because you can't find 2 reasons to take a trade, but you do it anyway. Sure. I think, Stephen, you're referring to the signals here on the Falcon. And you Raptor traders are thinking, oh, why is he focusing on the Falcon and not the Raptor? These signals are duplicated on the Raptor. The Falcon is the primary signal generation for the Raptor. If you even make a note of this morning here, September 19th, if you take a look at the overnight and the pre-market, these are 2 textbook scenarios for the Falcon. So let me start first with the trend change signal, which is this one right down here. So what initiates your trend change signal is the trend line changing color. That's clue number 1, that a trend change signal is underway. From here, we have the move that changes the trend line, and then we have the counter move. This counter move shows us that the sellers are trying to regain the market, but when we come back with a signal, that in fact tells us that they're not going to be able to accomplish that. So the buyers coming back, rallying the market once again, and we produce a buy signal. So that is your trend change signal. The late filter entry signal, which is this one up here, happens to be overlapping with a trend change signal. You see the same thing happening here. Here's the trend change, right? So we go from green to red. Here's the counter move, and now here is the with trend move. But what happened to the filter? The filter went out of sync. So we have red bars and a red trend line, but all of a sudden we have a green filter. So the filter goes out of sync, but then it comes back into sync. That's very important. It has to come back into sync. We produce a sell signal. This is perhaps one of the strongest signals on the Falcon. And you're going to notice that when your trend line gets flat, see, sometimes you'll get a late filter entry signal like this one right here, where your trend line is a little steeper. Not much, but a little bit. But these, where your trend line is practically flat, those tend to work out really, really well. Now, one thing about late filter entry signals is that you don't want to see a late filter entry signal followed by another late filter entry signal followed by another late filter entry signal. Signals do get stale. So your first one and second one are likely to be good, have good follow through to them. The third one, however, could be a little bit dicey. So if I was in a trade and I saw 3 late filter entry signals, I might get a little bit suspect about that third one, unless the trend just seemed really, really strong. Because what's happening here in the late filter entry signal is you're witnessing a shift in momentum. You're actually seeing the momentum trying to shift from bearish to bullish, but then all of a sudden it fails and it comes back to bearish. So you're watching buyers trying to put some bullishness back into the market, but price is not following through. That's why your trend line does not change color. And then when it comes back with a sell signal, then you know everything is in sync. Now let's take a look here at the Raptor, because I know the Raptor traders are fretting a little bit. Let's go take a look here at that same period. All right, so we have about the same time the late filter entry signal is developing on the Falcon, we are producing a number 1 signal on the Raptor. See, I told you weren't left out. So there's a number 1 signal coinciding with that really, really strong late filter entry signal. And then here, even though it did not print as a number 2 signal, this would have been your pre-market trend change signal. One thing you have to remember about the Raptor, though, is because it is a hybrid, it does tend to sacrifice quantity of signals for quality of signals. So you see it will point out this one here, but it did not highlight this one. Although visually you can still tell that is a number 2 signal. If you need, for you Falcon traders, if you need a reference, I do have a Falcon cheat sheet, and I'll just show that to you here. Oop. Otherwise, like I say, you can just take a look at this morning. and it just once again highlights the trend change. So you have, and you can see normally the trend change occurs faster than this one, but I couldn't find a screenshot where we had the three basic signals all together. But you have the trend line changing color, there's the down move, there's the counter move, and now the with trend move. And then the late filter entry signal. Once again, you can see the trend line relatively flat, and then just your basic trend line touch signal, which occurs once a trend is underway. So if you would like that, just shoot me an email and I can send that along to you. But like I said, the same signals will occur on the Raptor. I think a couple of important comments here. I'm going to deal with Richard's first. Richard's asking, wasn't Adam to be working on Raptor-like signals for the three birds? It's on the to-do list, Richard, because the DTS system we have the cheat sheets for, it hasn't been so much a priority to reprogram those. Rather, we've been kind of had our hands full with the whole Ninja 8 thing, and we had one more little obstacle come up just as we were about to release Ninja 8 Trade Manager. So hopefully before the end of the month, we'll have a Ninja 8 Trade Manager available. Mark says, yes, he started with one contract at $100. Then I went to 2 profit targets and 2 contracts. Now I'm at 5+ with a runner or 2 runners. And that's how you do it, folks. You got to build up your account so that you can trade multiples. That's where the money is. It's not in finding more opportunities. And Mark has probably because of his military background, he's able to exercise such discipline that eludes the rest of us. You had a good drill sergeant, Mark. Mark also makes a comment, I also use the Trade Manager and always have. I believe that's been a part of my success as well. The Trade Manager, of course, restricting your risk exposure. So those losers, as unfortunate as they may be, do not wipe out your account. Just a couple other comments here. Mark writes, I have a personal goal of making at least $100 on every contract with the high probability signals. This can be done. He said, we just had another trend change signal right now, picked up another 250 on 2 contracts on that one, all in, all out. And Mark makes a comment, that's what the brain is for, filtering quality from quantity. Ah, yeah, see, there you go. A sniper mentality, Mark says. I always loved the introduction to the movie Enemy at the Gates with Jude Law. I thought that was such an apt description of what a trader should be doing, how patient they need to be. I'm sure you can YouTube it, Enemy at the Gates, Jude Law. and you'll learn a lot from that intro. Yeah, Mark says that's an awesome intro. Richard uh, says a sniper is a patient hunter. Yeah, those of you who are sportsmen, you understand as well. You have to be patient, waiting for the right opportunity. You don't want to spook your prey. Here in Canada, we have the Princess Patricia Light Infantry, and they're I knew a fellow from there who was a sniper, and he was telling me about some of the competitions and such that they would do, where they would shoot at targets the size of a stop sign a kilometer away with bare sights. That was pretty impressive. As part of the Princess Pats, he also did a whole lot of crazy things. My goodness, you Army guys have the best stories. He was a big fellow. He was easily 6'3" and pushing 300 pounds. And one time, the funniest story I remember, one time they were trying to figure out how to get soldiers onto the beachhead faster. And this was in the Baltic Sea. I guess they were doing war games with Norway, and they were debating shooting them out of a torpedo tube. It didn't happen. I'm not sure he would have actually got out. Oh dear. All right. Back to work. Okay, it looks like we had some decent follow through after that rather little bit of a choppy period. You can see the market coming back here, and we actually had a little bit of a clue that this number one signal should have some follow through to it, because the market rejected this swing high right here. See, when the market encounters a high like this, right now you're thinking, oh, the market's strong, it hit the high. What should have happened if the buyers were going to control the market is we should have seen that retest, and then we should have seen the buyers try to step up. That would have generated a number one signal to buy right here, and that would have been worth trying. But because the breakout never came, that actually tells us the exact opposite. It tells us, wait a minute, the buyers are not strong, and now we can look for that selling opportunity. And that's part of the reason this signal had greater follow through. Sellers got more excited about it as we broke this support zone through here. We tagged out a whole lot of buyers whose exit orders would have been below here, below the low of the morning. Not just these buyers, but these buyers here, these buyers here, these buyers here. Everybody was sticking their stops below the lows. And when that area got breached, well, then we saw the rather aggressive follow through. So, yeah, a good number one signal, and it had the added advantage of being with trend. going to have that tattooed on my forehead so I don't forget. Yeah, Mark says, we need a lot of good stories. There's a lot of hurry up and wait time to pass. Yeah, some of his antics that he was doing, oh my goodness, he would have us in stitches. Yeah, the Princess Pats, they did all kinds of stuff, usually jumping out of airplanes. He had terrible knees. Now that we've had that big move lower, we're kind of faced with a similar problem as we did before, namely, if we get a sell signal, which we have, where in the world do we cover this trade? Because the possibility that the market's going to pull back, and retest this last breakout zone is certainly probable. Those are one of those moments where you pays your nickels, you takes your chances, and you just rely on the trade manager that if the trade backs up on you, okay, well, you you haven't lost more than you can afford. Yeah, see, there you go, Mark. Mark says, I never thought about it really, but maybe it's a 21-year career of hurry up and wait that has indirectly helped me prepare for trading. I think there's a lot of truth to that, Mark. Maybe more than you realize. Mickey asks, how do you feel about the Ninja 7 update 7.0.1000.39? Mickey, I am probably the last person in the world to update my software. I am firmly from the if it works, don't fix it school of thought. So much so that I turn off my updates on my computer, which was a hint that was given to me long ago by Adam, and my computer has never malfunctioned. Those security updates, and I'm using air quotes when I say security, are usually just a way to put something on your computer that you probably don't want there anyway. Some pop-up ad encouraging you to update to the latest software or stuff like that there. So no, I haven't updated to the latest Ninja 7. A lot of people don't know this, but they assume because Indicator Warehouse software works on a Ninja platform that somehow we're in cooperation with NinjaTrader. No. No, they really don't worry too much about whether our software will work on their platform. They just do what they want to do and leave us to scramble and pick up the pieces, essentially. So unless unless there's a strong reason to update the software, I probably don't. Okay, we're looking a little bit stronger here at the moment. Yeah, Mark giving a similar testimony says Microsoft updates have been turned off for 18 months. They conflict with my video cards and cause screen freezing. My Falcon computer has had my computer frozen from updating, and I've had no issues, knock on wood. The computer updates are the worst. Back into the hard edge on the Eagle and the Raptor. It is looking a touch more bullish for the very short term here. Yeah, Mark says Windows 10 is the bane of my existence. Don't get me started, Mark. You guys know how I despise Windows 10. Oh, what horrid operating software. At least before they used to pretend not to want to spy on you, and now it's just, you can't stop us, so we're going to do it anyway. Here now, that big push up back to the low of the morning. Kicking myself a little bit because I was going to hop on this hawk signal. Also turned into a 4-arrow consolidation. We did get the early trend change signal here on the Raptor, or of course the number 2 signal printing. If this is going to be a full-on change in direction, however, we should get a little bit of a pullback. Oh, I got Mark all wound up about Windows 10 now. He says, I'm their #1 anti-fan. I wish there was another way. Well, there is. It's called Linux, but of course, then a lot of your Windows-based software has to run through a virtual machine, which is no fun. Yeah, I know, Mark. I know. He says exactly. There's no good way around Windows 10. You just got to keep breathing life into your Windows 7 machine as long as you can. All right. Geiger counter getting a little bit bullish. We're in the hard edge, which is giving me pause. I'm not opposed to buying, but I don't think I'm going to be too aggressive about it. If I get a nice setup, then we'll give it a go. Overall, however, the trend is still down. So we need to bear that in mind. And you can see the conflict here at the hard edge now. The Geiger counter was green, had that little swell of buying go through, and now it's turning red again. Yeah, Tom suggesting why not make the platform work with iOS. Windows is open source. Apple is much more secure. I have a separate Windows laptop just for futures trading and cringe every time I turn it on. It's a great suggestion, Tom. It's just how many hours in the day something is always taking precedence. But you're right. It would be an ideal platform to move to. All right, we're witnessing a bit of a test of the extreme here. Here come the buyers again. We essentially have a rule of three in the Eagle, even though we've only produced two signals. I might try that. Oh, come back here. We've got two swings. So I've got a swing here, a swing here. Ideally, I should cover below the low of the day, but I'm just not able to do that. So we'll see whether or not the buyers can muster a rally. Mark says Ninja needs to work with Apple. Let's not give them too many ideas. NinjaTrader is already throwing enough wrenches into our software. Okay, here now with the Raptor, we're going to be anticipating a number one signal or a hard edge bounce. You can interpret that next signal a couple of different ways. Okay, so far so good. Just making a few notes here in my journal. Okay, I'm going to force this trade to break even now. Just because it's the Eagle, there's a lot more money at risk here. I could even bring my profit order in a little bit tighter, but I'm going to try to hold on here, see if they can't squeak above. No, don't pull back now. Oh, you stinkers. All right, well, I just have to look at perhaps re-entering on the next signal, perhaps the one here in the Raptor. We are getting a macro pullback here on the Hawk, and there's a little bit more structure. I'll hold out here for the Raptor signal, see if we can't get it. So the clouds now fully crossed. We have the pullback. The next signal that develops will be a number one signal. Oh, not if the clouds cross again. We'll see here over the next few minutes whether I was too quick with my stops or whether that was the thing to do. Doggone it, that number one signal slipped right past me. All right, I'm just going to buy in. I'm way late on that number one signal. I'm going to hopefully see some follow through on this one now. All right, not looking very promising here at the moment. The market really holding on to these highs, which if the trend changes now and goes the other direction, will probably result in another one of these. Let's see if the buyers can't get something together here. Let's make sure my stops are far enough away. Ideally, if we're looking Well, there's one swing, there's two swings. This swing here is awfully close. I could perhaps risk it just a little bit more, at least initially. Come on, buyers. Patiently trying to wait out the market here, um, as we're still rather congested. The trading band starting to twist up a little bit. Okay, if we can get a little bit of support here now, we should see the market try to make another run at these recent highs, and maybe a break above 74.94 could put us in good shape, maybe for a move back to 75.02, which would be our primary support zone. I'm so tempted to roll my stops. And I suppose I should take some of the risk out of this trade. Oh, come on. Don't stop now. You can do it. Come on. Just one more little push. Where'd everybody go? We're getting a crossover buy now on the E-mini, so maybe things are starting to sync up here a little bit. Uh, Momentum, volatility certainly has drained out of the market. The bars were fairly brisk there for a while, but now nothing. So we've got a large sideways trading range developing. Well, not large in price, but large in time. We've been stuck in this sideways range now for, well, good 20, 25 minutes. Nice thing about sideways trading range is that it typically leads to a noteworthy move, usually. All right, so they ended up reversing out of that and tagging me out, but you know what? That's okay. That is, I managed that trade about as well as I could have done given the situation, so I don't feel too terrible about it, even though it did result in a little bit of a loss. I think we're gonna, see prices fall off here, and if the buyers are going to try to rally the market, they're going to try to do it from this low down here. Kind of goes back to the importance of staying with trend, I suppose. All right, again, a little bit of a pushback. This, of course, close to where the buyers put the brakes on the sellers before. All right, here we are now with a crossover sell forming. That's the number one signal. And the bar is retreating a little bit, so it does offer up the possibility of a second push entry, which I think is desirable given that the low of the day is right here. And we've seen a rather substantial attempt to rally the market off of this price zone. All right, here we go. Let's see if we can get a couple bars here below the low. I'm going to get really aggressive with my stops. Let's see where the parabolics are. Not strong enough. Let's go with the bar high-low strategy. And we're going to squeeze this trade pretty tight. In fact, I will bring my break even down on this next bar. This now, of course, the low of the day, 74.71. Okay, well, it may turn out that I was a little bit too quick with that stop, but I don't know, just kind of given this context, it seemed like the right thing to do. We'll see how the day progresses from here. But I would not be surprised to see the market spend the rest of the session pretty much in a sideways trading range. This tends to happen after the market makes a strong move one way or the other. And I think we've seen a fairly decent move lower. And now, of course, we're kind of in the sideways range. I would welcome a move back to 7,500. I think that could offer a decent opportunity. So if you're going to trade here some more, I think you can be on the lookout for a trend change signal. Here on the Raptor, of course, you'd be looking for your number 2 signal to develop. And I think that might see the market try to pop up, at least for the short term. All right, gang, I will see you again tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. Bye for now.